Hi, friends. Shabbat Shalom. Good to see you. Good to see you. It's a nice sunny day, and for some of us still, a complicated week, but we're glad that we get to come together, take a breath together, move into Shabbat together. I'm going to invite you to turn to page 130. Page 130. And remember that if you have a prayer book with two different page numbers, you're following the page number in blue brackets. So if you have one of our large print prayer books or one that's a little bit lighter and it doesn't have the whole text, you will see two page numbers. You'll follow in blue brackets, page 130. A regular prayer book, one option, easy to join, no problems. You can do it. Let's take a breath and begin.
Let us sing unto God a new song. Let us sing unto God a new song. Ya la 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 ya la ya la la. Ya la 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 ya la la. Ya la 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 ya la ya la la. Ya la 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 ya la la. Ya la 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 ya la la. Ya la 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 ya la ya la la. Ya la 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 ya la la. Ya la 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 ya la ya la la. Ya la 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 ya la la. Ya la 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 la. Lechu neranena l'Adonai, nariha letzuri sheinu, nekadma fanav b'toda, bizmirot nariha lo, bizmirot nariha lo. La la la, ya la la la, ya la ya la la, ya la la la, ya la la, ya la la la, ya la ya la la, ya la la la, ya la la, ya la la la, ya la la. Let us sing unto God. Let us sing unto God. Sing unto God a new song. Let us sing unto God a new song. Ya la la la, ya la ya la la. Ya la la la, ya la la. Ya la la la, ya la ya la la. Ya la la la, ya la la. Ya la la la, ya la la.
Before we continue, like we always do, I'm going to encourage you to turn to someone you don't know and introduce yourself, share your name, wish a Shabbat Shalom. You can turn behind, you can look in front, you can cross an aisle, show your name tags. Lovely. Well, thank you, friends. Okay, you can keep talking. Sure. We're here all night. Let's turn backwards. 120. We bring some more light. Rachel, come forward. Bring some light into the space. And we invite you to join along. Page 120.
b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. Thank you. 123, we turn the page. We'll ask you to rise as you are able, and we are going to invite whomever chooses. We invite you to come forward. If there's something that has been meaningful this week, this month, there's an anniversary, there's a birthday, you got a promotion, you retired, you have children, you are visiting from Long Island, whatever it might be, we're going to invite whomever chooses to come forward and join me. We'll have a little bit of juice for you, and we can make a kiddush together. 123. No pressure.
Right, pull us out.
There you go.
Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pari hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu. V'shabbat kodsho, v'ahava uvratzon, hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila, v'mikra'e kodesh, zecher litziat Mitzrayim, ki vanu v'acharta, ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים בשבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
L'chaim. Is there anything special that folks are celebrating, or you just wanted some juice? Your anniversary. Mazel. How many years? 52. No. That's beautiful. What are you celebrating?
76th birthday.
Your 76th birthday. Mazel. Happy birthday. 74th birthday. Very good. And you're the visitors from Long Island.
Getting together with our son and daughter-in-law.
Coming to visit the family. Well, nice to have you folks with us. Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.
You can just put your cups right on the table. We can return to our seats, friends. Let's turn back to page 138, 139. The Chadodi, the prayer of our mystics. We continue, as always, the first 5 stanzas. After the 5th one, we jump to the very last one. When we reach that last one, our custom is to rise as we are able. We face the open doors in the back of our sanctuary, symbolically welcoming the Sabbath bride into our midst. Page 138.
Yalla la 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 chadodi, yalla la 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 likrat kala. La 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 la, Panei Shabbat, lekave. Ya la 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 la, lechadoti. Ya la 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 la, likrat kala. Ya la 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 la, Panei Shabbat, lekave. Shamor v'zachor, b'dibur echad, ishmianu el hamyuchad, Adonai echad, u'shmo echad, tiferet v'litilah. La 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 la, lechadoti. Shabbat nekabela likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha ki mekor habracha merosh mikedem nesucha סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה יאי לי לי יאללה לה 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 לך דודי יאללה לה 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 לקראת קלה יאללה לה 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 פני שבת נקבלה מקדש מלך עיר מלוכה קומי צאי מתוך ההפך רב לך שבט בעמק הבכה והוא יחמול עלייך חמלה יאי לי לי יאללה לה 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 לך דודי יאללה לה 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 לקראת קלה יאללה לה 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 פני שבת נקבלה התנערי מעפר קומי לבשי בגדי תפארתך עמי על יד בן ישי בית הלחמי קורבה אל נפשי גהלה יאי לי לי יאללה לה 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 לך דודי יאללה לה 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 לקראת קלה יאללה לה 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 פני שבת נקבלה התעוררי כי בא עורף קומי אורי שיר דברי כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה יאי לי לי יאללה לה 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 לך דודי יאללה לה 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 לקראת קלה יאללה לה 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 פני שבת נקבלה בואי ושלום עטרת בלה גם בשמחה וצהלה תוך אמוני עם סגולה בואי חלה יאי לי לי יאללה לה 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 לך דודי יאללה לה 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 לקראת קלה יאללה לה 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 פני שבת נקבל יאללה לה 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 לך דודי יאללה לה 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 לקראת קלה יאללה לה 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 פני שבת
May be seated. We turn again 142. Sometimes we have been changing one of these words. So when we look on 142 and welcome these angels, Shalom Aleichem, peace unto you, all of these ministering angels, the angels that come as we prepare for Shabbat to help us not only be ready for Shabbat, but also to help accompany us, to maybe give us a little bit of strength after complicated weeks. Well, we always say, peace to you, Shalom Aleichem, Boachem l'Shalom, the second verse, right? Enter into peace. Bless me with peace, Barchuni l'Shalom. But sometimes we change the words from Tzeitchem l'Shalom, depart in peace. We say Shuvchem. Shuvchem, because it's been a difficult time this week in particular for all of these families relating to hostages, the ones being held in Gaza. Shuvchem is to return. We're asking angels to even do their part for help us to bring them back home. So we will continue with the first three verses as we always do, but in the last one, instead of Tzeitchem l'Shalom, we're going to say Shuvchem. Return them in peace. 142.
Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi-Melech, Malchei HaMlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi-Melech, Malchei HaMlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi-Melech, Malchei HaMlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni l'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi-Melech, Malchei HaMlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi-Melech, Malchei HaMlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shuvchem. Shuvchem l'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi-Melech, Malchei HaMlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi-Melech, Malchei HaMlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
146. We ask you to rise as you are able.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
Let's turn to page 149. Let's read together. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars, creator of the tide of time and light. You guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv aravim. If you open up our handouts, you'll see our version that we often do of Shema and V'ahavta. Open it up. It's all the way to the right, and join along.
Ya ya la ya la la la, ya ya la la la, ya ya la ya la 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 la, ya ya la ya la la la, ya ya la la la, ya ya la ya la 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 la. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu. Adonai, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai, Adonai Echad. Ya ya la ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya ya la ya la la la. Shem kevod malchuto leolam, leolam haed. Baruch Shem kevod malchuto leolam, leolam haed. Ya ya la ya la la la, ya ya la la la, ya ya la ya la la la. Soul and with all of your might. You shall teach your children to hold, to love and to know what is right. Ya ya la ya la la la, ya ya la la la, ya ya la ya la la la.
Be seated. 157. Let's read together. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. We turn the page.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, Nora tehilot osei fele. Nora tehilot osei fele. Malchutecha ra'u v'hanecha bokei hayam לפני משה ומרים. זה ליאנו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. ברוך אתה אדוני. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. ברוך אתה אדוני. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. ברוך אתה אדוני. מי כמוך באלים אדוני. מי כמוך נדר בקודש. נורא תהילות אוסף אלה. נורא תהילות אוסף אלה. מלכותך ראו בניך בוקי הים לפני משה ומרים. זה ליאנו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. ברוך אתה אדוני. 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 ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. ברוך אתה אדוני.
Amen, amen. Let's turn the page. We start on 161. We go back to the Hebrew on 160 and then return to the English.
Understanding among us, let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Hashkiveinu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashkiveinu, Leshalom. Le'amidenu, Shomreinu lechaim. Ufros aleinu, Sukat shlomecha. Hashkiveinu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashkiveinu, Leshalom. Hashkiveinu, Adonai Eloheinu, Hashkiveinu Leshalom. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
With a breath, we move into the Tefillah 164, and we invite you to rise as you are able.
Adonai sevatai tiftach ufi agid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'konei Hakol, Ve'zocher Chasdei Avot ve'imahot, U'mevi Geula livnei v'neihem, Leman Shemo be'ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshia u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Vezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor leolam Adonai, Mechaye hakol atah Rav lehoshia, Morid hatal, Mechalkel chaim bechesed, Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato lishenei afar, Michamocha bal gevurot, Umido melach, Melech meimit, Umechaya, Umatzmiach Yeshua, B'neman atah lechayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayei hakol. Atah kadosh, v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom, yahalelucha salah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh.
May be seated. Let's read together in 175 at the bottom. You are with us in our prayer, our love and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers, and there may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otcha levadcha bira na'avod. A prayer for peace is on 178.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם.
We take some time for our own personal prayer. If you want to follow in the Siddur, you can look on 179 through 181. Choose any reading you'd like to reflect upon, or just take some time for your own quiet, your own personal prayer and reflections.
יהיו לרצון אמרי פי
180.
והגיון ליבי לפניך. אדוני צורי וגואלי. אדוני צורי וגואלי. יהיו לרצון אמרי פי והגיון
Page 371, a prayer for healing and wholeness. Again, if you have one of those little handouts and you opened it up and saw the middle page, that middle panel, you'll see lots of names that have been shared with us asking for strength and prayer as all of these folks are on a healing journey. And as always, if you'd like to share the name out loud of someone that's on your mind and in your heart, you can lift up those names. We'll fill up this sanctuary, and afterwards we'll join together in a Mishaberach, a prayer for healing. So let's, if you have a name to share, we can just call them out. We move to 371.
And let us say, Amen. Mishaberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Amen, amen. Sometimes when we study Jewish texts, it's, for me at least, it's a lot like playing connect the dots. When I first take a look at an idea or a text or a Torah portion or whatever it might be, it just looks like a whole bunch of dots and I don't really get it. It's not saying anything. And then when we're kids and we start making these lines and connecting all of these dots, it starts to create an image. But it doesn't happen right away. You have to kind of stick with it. I liked it a lot as a kid, playing that game and having a picture emerge. And then it's up to us actually to draw connections. And again, for someone who's little, that's not always so easy. For now, well, it's still not so easy. But when you're a kid, it's a little bit difficult and you have to really focus and make sure you do it right. Otherwise, it brings you to a wrong direction and it makes no sense. But when you do kind of connect those dots and maybe even add other shading, other color, there's something else that emerges. No matter how much I tried this Shabbat to connect different dots, it kept making the same picture. And it's a heavy one for me tonight, and it might be a little bit heavy for you as well. But I'm going to try and help connect the dots for some of us, relating to things that are happening on the calendar, things that are happening in the Torah, and things that are happening in the world. Jewish thinkers of old and our sages have said everything has a meaning. Every number has a meaning. So we make words and messages and symbols just out of words, because an aleph is a 1, and a bet is a 2, and a gimel is a 3, and we have all of this symbolic teachings, a symbolic language by looking at our numbers in Jewish tradition. We know one example of that is 40. There's lots of different 40s. The Israelites were traveling for 40 years. There was 40 days and nights of rain for Noah and the flood. Moses was up on the mountains. Was up in one mountain. Around here, it's more mountains, but there it was just one mountain. And that was for 40 days, and that was for 40 nights. So we have all of these 40s, and we don't think that it's necessarily 40 as a number. It's 40 meaning that there's a significant amount of time that something has happened to have a full kind of an experience. Similarly, we use the number 7. And we know that the 7 is coming from creation, right? There are 6 days of creating, and the 7th day, God ceases and starts Shabbating and rests. And so that also is a complete cycle. And we see lots of other 7s. We see 7s in a Jewish wedding ceremony, the 7 blessings, the Sheva Brachot, 7 blessings, right? We see that the earth, and that's where this Torah portion is, the earth has to rest every 7 days, every 7 years. Farmers can't always go to the same plot of land and keep farming that land. On the 7th year of the calendar, it has to rest. And it's not just that 7th year where it has to rest. There are 7 cycles of 7. The Torah calls it 7 weeks of 7. So every 7 years, the land has its own Shabbat for the entire year. And when you do that 7 different times, how many years is that? Good, math majors. 49 years, not only is that another sabbatical, but the next year completes the entire cycle, 50. That's the completion. So every 7th year is a sabbatical year. On the 50th year, they call it a jubilee. And in ancient Israel, they were told that anybody who lost their land and became impoverished and had hardships, there was like a reset. It was like that, I don't know, was it a Staples commercial? And there was a button, and everything went back to the beginning. So there was no generational poverty, for example. For somebody who has a lot of land, they might not like the idea of having less. But there was this idea of a reset. And so the symbolic language is that this 7 sets of 7 is a super wholeness. And for the last little bit, we've been doing the same thing, because there's another counting not of weeks or of years, but of days, right? From Passover to Shavuot, there is a tradition of counting the Omer. And there's this idea that each day you get closer and closer and closer after you leave Egypt, Passover, on the way to experience Revelation, Shavuot, God revealing Torah, that we have to kind of prepare ourselves for it. You have to walk through all of these different kinds of doors and ready ourselves, because it's not just that God gave the Torah, it's the idea that we have to receive the Torah. So I'm looking at these numbers, I'm looking at these 7s, and I see in the text that in the 7th month of that 50th year, the Jubilee year, there's something that happens in the Torah. Remember, we're connecting the dots. I'm not just zigzagging. It has a reason. So just hang on. You could do it with me. In the Torah portion, Bahar, it says, in the context of this Jubilee year planning, that you have to blow the shofar. And they do it on Yom Kippur. It says the Day of Atonement in the Torah. So in the 7th month of that 50th Jubilee year, there are these loud blasts, and you have to actually proclaim liberty throughout the land for all of its inhabitants. Proclaim liberty throughout the land. Freedom throughout the land. Some will translate it a release. Proclaim a release, freedom, and liberty throughout the land. And that's where all of my connecting the dots started to make a picture. when they hit 50 in the Torah, it's like a new beginning. There's a restoration. And we hear a shofar, and everybody is freed and has a new opportunity. There's also a blowing of the shofar associated with the giving of the Torah on Mount Sinai. So there's freedom and there's responsibility. I don't think it's just about being free. It is about taking our liberty and freedoms seriously by being responsible for one another. So even at the moment of giving of the Torah, there is shofar blasts. So it's not stam, just on Yom Kippur we blow the shofar. There's all of these shofar images relating to 50, new beginnings, and the shofar is the ultimate symbol of a freedom and a call to action. Still connecting the dots. Since October 7th, I feel like lots of us have been yearning for a time where we can have restoration, where we can just start again, that all of these terrible things can be behind us. And it's not just for these families that have suffered, both in Israel and in Gaza and around the world, because there was a lot of other people from other countries that were killed on October 7th. We want a sense of restoration and to begin again. And in this period of counting between Passover, where we are enslaved, and the potential of receiving Torah on the 50th day for Shavuot, I just feel very uneasy. I think especially this week, because while I'm waiting for the shofar blast, the families of hostages are feeling desperate. So much so that this past week they released a video. Maybe some of you have seen it. I see a lot of nods. They released a video that was not shown before. It was too graphic. It was too painful. And they didn't want to humiliate their daughters. But because the world isn't responding, they released this video in Israel a few days ago, and it was horrible. It made me sick. And they did it because there's not enough people bearing witness, and there's not enough people advocating for a change who are really prepared to blow a shofar of freedom. And for us to be responsible for doing it, I feel like people are forgotten. Even a lot of those hostage families feel like Israel's government isn't taking their needs seriously. And it feels kind of true, because in the last few weeks, there's all of these people who have been found dead in Gaza, and have been returned to Israel. I feel like a lot of us haven't been seen. That there's challenges about being Jewish in public, or who are we going to ally with? All of these things, again, have been breaking our feelings of restoration and new beginnings. Even there's lots of folks in our own Jewish community who are choosing not to participate in Boulder's pride because they feel like it's unsafe to be part of an LGBTQ community and to partner with Out Boulder. Not everyone, but there's a bunch who feels like it's not a place where they can be out as Jews. And how sad is that that is a part of our reality. And it's not just our congregants. I'm hearing it from rabbis and clergy around the country. They're facing the same thing. I need us to figure out how to proclaim liberty and freedom and release throughout the land. And it's not just this land. It's not just our community. It's not just this country. It's not just in Israel. There's got to be a way where we can participate in the shofar blast when we reach the 50th day and stand again at Sinai, and there's a part of me that kind of knows that it's not going to happen. But that doesn't mean that we don't fight for it, that we don't try to make it happen. I think freedom is due for everyone. And there are no exceptions to that, by the way. If I'm somebody who really believes that every single person is created in God's image, then there's no exceptions. We don't make peace with friends, we make peace with enemies and try to forge a new future. There has to be liberty and freedom for all without the buts. I'm hoping that these days of counting the Omer is going to remind us about what we need to do, not just for ourselves to stand at Sinai, but how to get those who are not at home and to bring them back to our people and our community too. Ambassador Deborah Lipstadt, she was a very famous professor at Emory University, a worldwide expert on Holocaust denial and anti-Semitism. What a job. She's now the U.S. Special Envoy to monitor and combat anti-Semitism within the State Department of the United States. She wrote an op-ed with Ambassador Michelle Taylor, who's the U.S. Permanent Representative to the United Nations Human Rights Council. And they wrote an op-ed maybe 4 months ago saying that there's a double standard. They talked about Israeli women specifically being attacked and sexually assaulted and having other people not recognize their suffering. The movement and organizations and activists fighting against gender-based violence have largely been silent, and when they started to speak, it was really because the Jewish community shamed them into it. Everybody speaks up when there are brutal crackdowns, including us, against Iranian women and girls and their protests. We spoke up when Yazidi women under the genocidal Islamic State regime were at risk, or when Nigerian girls were held hostage by Boko Haram thugs. I remember preaching on each of those issues. And no one waited for evidence to be shared to see if it was true or not. They write in this op-ed, this is not to suggest that one atrocity or human rights violation is worse than another. It's not a contest. Each crime is horrific, and all perpetrators should be prosecuted. But the ambassadors wrote, "We feel compelled to ask, why is this situation any different to when other women have faced similar violence? What accounts for the clear reticence to speak out? The only difference is the perception that these were Jewish victims and were perceived by some as somehow deserving of it. These kinds of assaults are not acts of resistance. They are brutality. And their crimes against humanity." And I share all of this because liberty and freedom isn't going to come just because we reach Shavuot, unless we become like a shofar blast as a community and demand the return of hostages, not all of whom are Israeli. So people will often say to me after I make these big, long talks, well, what should we do about it? I'm going to tell you a couple of things just to start. On Tuesday, May 28th, is going to be a Jewish community conversation online with Sheryl Sandberg, very high-ranking person in the Facebook world, once upon a time, about her new documentary called Screams Before Silence. It's available for free as a documentary on YouTube. She wanted to make sure that everybody had access to it. And on Tuesday, the National Council of Jewish Women is going to have a community conversation about it. There's information about it on our synagogue's Facebook page. A second thing we could do, walk on Sundays with us to show that we care and we are walking and we are calling for action. There's a Boulder Run for Their Lives group, which has been walking in Boulder for months. We walk the mall on Pearl Street, and we meet on 8th and Pearl. And they've been doing it every single Sunday. And sometimes we have to show up. You can sign a petition given to government leaders at the Bring Them Home Now website. You can support organizations that are going to start building a future, both in Israel, with hostages returned home, and in Gaza, by sidelining Hamas and providing aid that Palestinians in Gaza need to survive. And I think one of the most significant things we can do is when we hear hate, we need to speak out against it. Whether it is misogyny, or trans person hate, or anti-Semitism hate, they aren't all the same, but each needs to be confronted. Let me conclude with this. You often hear me say these things and the hard stuff and say, oh, by the way, we still have to hope. and you'll look at me and say, really? Do you really buy that? Do you really believe that? And I will say, again, what I've said at least 50 times over the course of this year from this table, which is, nobody can steal my hope. And hope isn't just a feeling. It's not warm, fuzzy. It's actually kind of hard. Hope is a conviction. Hope is the catalyst to help me and us build the world we think it ought to be. It's a conviction that needs to be acted on. Otherwise, it's just wishful thinking. So this night, in this counting to the 50, I'm going to ask us to think about the themes of this particular evening on this counting chart. One is Netzach and one is Hod. I would talk about those two Hebrew terms as the capacity to endure. Because we need to get through this, and even more so, please God, those hostages need a capacity to endure. So the numbers, it's 32 days of the counting of the Omer. It's 230 days since October 7th. There are 121 hostages abducted who remain in Gaza. Not all of them are alive. 109 civilian hostages have been released. 3 hostages have been rescued alive. Bodies of 19 have been recovered. 37 are dead but are still held captive in Gaza. 2 bodies of fallen soldiers have been held in Gaza since 2014. Most don't mention them, as well as 2 Israeli civilians from the same time, and it's not known if they are still alive. But we are on a journey to proclaim freedom and liberty and release throughout the land. And so I invite you to turn to page 570, take a breath, and let's make this night count as we move toward a time when we can proclaim liberty throughout the land. Blast the shofar for every hostage, for every Jew, for every Israeli, for every Palestinian who's hurting. And pray and hope and strive for peace. Page 570.
הנני מוכן ומזומן לקיים מצוות עשה. הנני מוכן ומזומן לקיים מצוות עשה של ספירת העומר, של ספירת העומר, של ספירת העומר, של ספירת העומר. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו על ספירת העומר, על ספירת העומר, על ספירת העומר, על ספירת העומר.
היום 32 יום שהם 4 שבועות ו4 ימים לעומר. Today is 32 days, which is 4 weeks and 4 days of the Omer, representing Netzach Shebahod, the capacity to endure.
Yai hai rai yai ba bai bai. Yai rai rai yai ba bai. Ai ai rai yai ba bai bai. Ai ai rai yai ba dai. Ai ai rai rai yai rai. Yai rai 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 rai. Ai ai rai rai yai rai. Yai rai 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 rai.
Aleinu L'Shabeach 586, the bottom of the page. We ask you to rise as you are able. 586 at the bottom.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא,
588.
שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובהי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד.
591.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
seated. Zichronam levracha, may their memories be for a blessing. If you are observing a yahrzeit, the anniversary of one's death, or if you're in a period of mourning, we invite you, if you choose, to rise for a moment, share the name of the one whom you are remembering, then we'll continue with additional names from our community.
Our son, Brian Aaron Wee.
Green Malvin Nadyan.
Kate M. Bullings.
Chedva. To those names, we also remember in the period of Shloshim, those first 30 days, Morris Mandelbaum, the father of Catherine Johnson and David Mandelbaum, Elsa Alvareza, the mother of Gustavo Livrero,